Welcome, Anne. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Excellent. Well, hey, look, thanks very much for joining today. Anne Durupt is a social economy consultant, trainer, and facilitator with a passion around collective intelligence. Would you mind just perhaps
Yes.
sharing a little bit more around your background?
Yes, thank you again. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about my job. So I'm French and I've been working as an independent social economic consultant and project manager for more than 15 years in France. I support and advise not-for-profit organizations which are committed to having a social or environmental impact. I am particularly interested in people and planet issues and overseeing value-focused problem solving. And I have several ways of intervening with this organization by leading and facilitating cooperation in teams, by managing research and innovation projects, as well as coordinating process and team activities, and by defining operational goals, strategic targets, as well as social marketing campaigns. So I have a master's degree in social economy and qualification in collective intelligence facilitation and design thinking. And it's funny because today is our anniversary in New Zealand. We arrived here as a family on September 13, 2024. So
Oh,
I'm
fantastic.
pretty new to the country.
Happy anniversary and welcome
Thank you.
again to New Zealand. So, yeah, look, thanks for making time. And look, a broad range of sort of skill sets there. Would you mind perhaps? I'm a little bit curious around this collective intelligence. Would you mind sort of describing what that is?
On collective intelligence?
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, it's important to understand that collective intelligence is it's not only collaboration; it's something more deep. So collective intelligence is neither spontaneous or instantaneous. It requires learning, practices, and times. And people need to get to know each other and learn how to act or think together, to share mental models and representation, and be okay that conflicts may arise. It's normal in a team, and that's okay. The matter is not the conflict, but what we do when a conflict happens. People must understand the value of cooperation, and you need to allow time for identity growth, individual and collective. And it's important to, make the magic happen and to give time for that.
Yeah.
We also say that there is a three dimension of the collective intelligence. The cognitive one, so enables understanding the purpose of collective action. Relational, to enable the creation of strong bonds within the team. But also action and interaction, because collective intelligence can be real without action.
Right.
So it's a dynamic process.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for clarifying that. So if I understood correctly, there's kind of three sort of pillars there. The connection, which is around the why.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the relation, so building strong bonds amongst the team members.
Yeah.
And then lastly is that we actually need to do something about it.
Exactly, and to understand. The understanding is the way to be engaged and involved.
Brilliant. Okay, so when you've worked with some of these organisations, not for profits, etc., and you're trying to sort of help enable change, what does it really take? So thinking about perhaps those three pillars, what does it really take to get the individuals in a group thinking and creating together?
Yeah. Collective intelligence is both an individual and a collective skill. The facilitator's role is to create the conditions that enable cooperation with everyone's commitment. So when you make room in the organization to work on this, it becomes culturally essential, and people you can do without it after that. So obviously it starts with trust. Without it, people won't feel safe enough to share their ideas. But trust can be decreed. It has to be built over the time. And one useful way to approach this through what we often call is trust circuits or trust loops. So models designed to create group safety, inclusion, and cohesion. You also need to define and create rules, a common goal, and a space where everyone will feel legitimate and safe to contribute, regardless of their role or status. If you create the right condition, the magic of collective intelligence can happen. You need to work on permission, protection, and that will help to build performance. And it takes time. So collective intelligence is just a long journey, but it builds through repeated interaction, and it helps to become a very high-performing team.
Okay.
And finally, I would add that it's also to accept a certain amount of uncertainty. So it's about allowing things to emerge rather than trying to control everything. It's often where the most original ideas come from, in the uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. So with perhaps some of the organisations that you've worked with, I mean, there's a lot in there, right? And you've mentioned time, but also you've mentioned certain practices to enable psychological safety, to be able to sort of become comfortable in that space of not knowing. So what are some of the practices that you've found really useful? Firstly, and then secondly, like what would you typically find that journey may take to get or to become, pretty effective with using these ways as a team?
Yeah. I've supported and continue to support managers, leadership teams, and organizations through change processes. And as a consultant and trainer, I've seen that the cornerstone connecting human management and change management is collective intelligence. Because the world is chaotic, human beings are complex, teams are complex, and organizations are complex. So change and transformation are now constant. And we increasingly evaluate organizations and teams and their ability to perform through change. So I love to help individual and organization and the teams to be ready for that. And I'd like to speak about homeostasis. Because we can, if we want, we can develop a lot of things to resist to the change and everything we can do to maintain stability amidst the chaos. And when we try to preserve a fragile balance and cling to existing methods simply because we don't know how to do things differently, we take a real risk. So human nature seeks everywhere homeostasis, that sense of balance and stability. And while the instinct is often useful, and homeostasis is useful, it can also become the very things that prevent us from innovation and reinventing ourselves or transforming. So this became especially the case during the COVID crisis. Some organizations tried to carry on as they always had, and they failed. And others choose to innovate and reinvent how they worked, and they survive. So, yes, it's interesting to learn about this kind of period.
Yeah. So just to be clear around that, what would you define? What's the definition for homeostasis? How do you term that?
Homeostasis is the way that you are looking to find each solution to maintain the original balance, the original way to do things that you have ever done, like you have ever done the thing. Okay. So it's about staying stable, but not be able to be in front of the chaos or the complexity, but just try to maintain things as they are.
Right. Okay. So that maybe is a good sort of segue into a question that I was kind of predetermined here was around this collective intelligence piece. It sounds really, really powerful, but also super messy and challenging for the individual. So how do you balance within our Ductory model and many design thinking models, there's this divergence and convergence sort of phase, where we're exploring, creating more and more options, and then we're sort of diverging, creating some choices in that. So how do you balance that sort of openness and direction, and at the same time gathering all those diverse voices in order to solve complex problems?
Yeah, that's a great question. Collective intelligence is not just about sticking post-it on a paperboard, I like to say. It's powerful because it brings in diverse perspective, but that diversity can also make it feel messy or chaotic at times. So the key is to structure the openness and to create space for contribution where people feel safe to share ideas and express disagreement, while also providing a structure to guide the process toward a shared goal. So it is the key of the role of the facilitator. Collective intelligence, again, is a skill, and it's in practicing, experimenting, but also understanding. And it's why it's important to bring strong concepts and theories about that. And we have a lot of experts on the field. And you will lead in this way a team on the collective intelligence. So as a facilitator, and the manager has to be a facilitator. It's important. By facilitation, the facilitator will grant that the conditions are gathered for the development of collective intelligence, and this person has to clarify purpose and direction up front. So be very clear about why you are bringing people together and what you are trying to achieve with them. Set ground rules for collaboration, establish norms for how the group will work together. And one of the more important, to design the process carefully. Use facilitation techniques that alternate between divergent thinking, so exploring many ideas, and convergent thinking, so narrowing them down. Collective intelligence doesn't mean an endless brainstorm. It's about knowing when to explore and when to decide. So another point is to define the roles and the responsibility while everyone can contribute ideas. Not everyone needs to make every decision. Clarifying who decides and how it will help to avoid paralysis and frustration. And make time your precious ally. In an organization, time is precious, and the important thing is not how much time you have, but how you use it. So every process must be defined and timed. And at least define the next step, the role for the coming weeks, the expectation and interaction between the role, as well as the following process. And it doesn't have to be done collectively. Everything must be done using a systemic approach, so everyone belongs to everyone. Collective intelligence is about working on the I as a member of a group and the we as a combination of different individuals. So the result isn't just a collection of voices. It is a truly collective intelligence that is greater than the sum of each part.
I love that sort of final phrase. That's it's something I'm really passionate about. It's just finding ways to actually have more, particularly quiet voices, to be able to share, so that they can share their ideas, bring them to the surface. Because I'm sure that both you and I have been in many meetings or workshops where often it's the loudest voice or at times the highest paid person that sort of steers the direction without allowing that freedom to sort of emerge all ideas. And then but I resonate with what you're saying around the need for that structure to enable this, and then the decision making that will come from that. So perhaps would you mind share a story or a moment from where that sort of wisdom of the group has led to some great outcomes from creativity. So using a similar example, perhaps around the nominal group technique, that type of thing.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to remind everyone that innovation can be found in many different areas. So It's not only in the creation of a new product or service, it could be also in how we collaborate to deliver or promote an existing product or service. It's how we build new partnership to create greater impact, or in how we combine different skills and professional fields to tackle a social or environmental problem. Most of the time we look for innovation in a shiny new product, and if you go deep into the understanding phase, and if you set aside also your ego and your beloved solution for a moment, you might be surprised by what can emerge, especially in a group. So sometimes the most powerful solutions are found in the small gaps we hadn't imagined at first. And as an example, some time ago, I supported a social enterprise that helps vulnerable and undocumented individuals rebuild their life by providing social and professional reintegration. This organization runs a work integration workshop that has struggled to recover after the COVID crisis. So their core activity is manual finishing, kind of a finite stage task, and packaging, and they mainly work for printing companies. When I joined the team, the initial request was to help diversify the workshop's business activities in order to boost turnover. And after an analysis of their business, the stakeholders and ecosystem, I worked alongside a colleague to support team. I like to say also that my brain is wired for collaboration, so I always try to work in a team. When supporting another team, it helps to build and to model cooperation behavior. So together we guided them through a process to better understand their challenges, their clients' expectation, and most importantly, to find the right balance between what they believed was appropriate to do, what they individually wanted to do, and what could realistically become the foundation of a good solution. In this kind of organization, professionals are deeply committed. The people supported are in fragile situations, and clients can be demanding. So it's a very unique dynamic of stakeholders. The challenge wasn't in generating ideas. The divergence phase was incredibly rich. Ideas range from launching cooking or cleaning or sewing workshop, with suggesting coming from many voices in the group. So the leadership was also convinced that innovation involves launching something new. Mm-hmm. But as we dug deeper, session after session, it became clear that they hadn't actually ended with their core business, manual finishing. And that was still their best opportunity to grow revenue. So it was like, okay, it's a surprise for us. So what needed to change was not about what they are doing, but how they are doing it. So It was a good surprise for them. And it's where the innovation emerged, not in the service, but in the processes. Mm-hmm. So, through a shift in their marketing approach, developing a real communication and sales strategy, they were able to connect more effectively with their market. And by training in customer relationship skills, revisiting their internal process and organization, improving their pricing strategy, and creating new communication tools, they were able to double their revenue in a very short time. So we're so proud for that. And the group chose to focus on the multidimensional human aspects, so considering the needs and the contribution of team members, but also supported individuals and clients alike. So it was this collective mobilization that led to a meaningful innovation. So not through a brand new offering, but through reimagining how they delivered and positioned their existing value. So in this project, the nominal group technique has been used as a central tool to help the group generate, structure, and prioritize ideas. And the goal wasn't just to brainstorm, it was to create a space where every voice could be heard equally, regardless of role, seniority, or personality. So this was especially important in a context like a social enterprise, because professionals are highly committed, beneficiaries are often in vulnerable situation, and leaderships are strategic expectations. So yes, it's a mix of a lot of expectation.
Sure. And how did you find the that mix of expectations, like utilizing nominal group technique? Like, you know, how were you able to sort of navigate those different tensions or expectations from the different stakeholders through that process?
It was, I explained before, it's mainly about create the good conditions. But to create the good conditions, most of the time you have to work on the group, and sometimes at the same time to work on the individual. So yes, it's very interesting to navigate between the I and the we, and to work on the what we have to do together, and to work on the purpose, and to clarify what we have to do and how we will do that. So I can explain, for example, how we use the nominal group technique in this way. It's interesting just to let place for the individual reflection. And so it's the first step of the tool. No, it's to create and to generate ID. So each participant started by writing down their IDs individually and in silence. And I love silence in the group. It's so important to give place to silence moments. So this helps to avoid groupthink and make space for more diverse and authentic contribution, especially from quieter team members. So everyone can take a place in this first step. Then it's about sharing. So each person shared ideas without discussion or evaluation. This allows us to collect a wide range of ideas. So from cooking and cleaning service or sewing workshop. So a lot of ideas can emerge, and you just have to gather it. And then it's about clarification and grouping. So as a group, we then clarified and refined the ideas. So just to be sure that everyone can understand. And voting. Voting is a good way to decide in an organization. There is a lot of way to decide, and voting belongs to them.
Right. And how would you recommend, going about the voting again to make sure that perhaps the dominant voice or the manager is sort of not leading the direction of selection and that sort of thing initially? Granted that there may be an end decision maker, but how do you facilitate that? What's some practical ways that you recommend?
You have to define what is a good idea. Just what we are looking for, it's about finding the most relevant, realistic, or inspiring ideas. So you have to focus on this purpose, and you can, by iteration, try to clarify, to work on your understanding. So if you need to come back to the last step, it's important, but it's really important to work on again on the condition and on the place of everyone. So if we are working in equity in this process, we are going to the end by equity, even during the votes. So just to be the more objective about what we are trying to do and how we will choose the best idea. So you have to create a safe and equitable space for all this contribution, and it will reveal the shared insight. It's because it's just it's what should happen or could happen. So it helps the group to reframe even innovation, not as launching something entirely new, but as transforming how they marketed, priced, and delivered their existing service. And the nominal group technique is a very interesting tool to work on. The group is diverse with different perspective and roles, and there were many ideas, but also some internal tensions and strategic pressure. So it could happen. It's normal in an organization. And we needed to move forward with a shared sense of direction without losing the richness of individual contribution. So, again, it's a balance between all of that.
Wonderful. And I just want to pick up on a couple of things there. So you mentioned we're trying to select what is a good idea. And so, like, I appreciate that, the voting, and I've certainly used voting technique myself. How do we ground the group with, what determines might a good idea be? So, is there a criteria or that type of thing that typically you might use, and where does that come from?
Yeah, in a decision process, you can define what is the characteristic of a good idea. And if you are connecting to the understanding, if you are connecting to the objective to resolve the problems that you went very deep inside, you can just define these criteria, and maybe the group won't find the best idea, but it will find a good idea which will gather everyone. So it's about also the adhesion of everyone around the table, and be sure that, it's not it's the one of the top for us. And because we know we are the expert, and we know, we understand what our clients or each stakeholders want. So it's make clear that this one will be the good idea.
Thank you. I'm really also interested around the, what happens next. So we've made we've selected, let's say, the preferred idea, maybe a couple of others that are sort of leading ideas. And with this process of, collective intelligence and how you've been able to enable that sort of that culture and that safe space, how well have you found using these types of techniques that people, do people start to let go and just move with the, I suppose the point of view that, hey, here's what we think is our preferred idea, but it's not set in stone. We're going to move forward with this, and we'll see how we go. We'll test, we'll iterate, but we may even come back to one of these earlier ideas that we didn't select as the top idea. So, do you find that using this process, eventually people sort of do start to let go and I suppose drop their ego around having to have the best idea and actually sort of move forward together, but be open to, I suppose, intelligent failure. It didn't work, but we'll come back and we'll try these other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sorry. Yeah, collective intelligence could be sometimes painful because yes, you have to just accept that it's not your ideas which has been chosen, and you have to accept that the group could have a place which is so different from what you are expecting for, and for a manager, you have to keep the purpose, to keep the process, but you are not linked to what the people will build with around that. I mean that you have just to be the garant of the vision and the purpose and where you would like to go with your team and how you will go there. But most of the times you can't grant that because each people in the team is an expert and has something to say and has something to bring to the group. So you just have to be aware and open to what will happen. And there is a powerful process in collective intelligence called sharing representation. Since each person operates from their own frame of reference, it became clear that reality doesn't exist in itself. So everyone's only a piece of the real, and their own reality is shaped by their personal frame of reference. So is a selection of information interpreted by the brain. So it's, in other words, it's very subjective. And by engaging in this process of sharing representation, we multiply the possibly realities around a shared question. So it's a very powerful process. So the first step is to, again, this individual reflection and how we give silence to think. And we allow the silence to sink. So one person presents a question or topic and to the group, and each participant reflects individually, formulate their thoughts, and write down their key point of their representation on a sticky note. And the next step is sharing. Each person shares their representation, explains their reasoning, and stick their post-it on the board. And the group listens without reacting, no debate, just clarifying the question if needed. And all the responses are more visible in front of the group. And the next step, and the last one, is to build together. So at this stage, each participant has clarified their own thinking, heard different perspectives, and recognized the other valid representation exists, so they accept the different way of thinking. The group can now move forward to co-construct responses or solutions that take into account both individual and collective views. So creative collaboration only works when people feel safe, seen, and respected. Bringing together diverse voices is powerful, but it also means navigating between different ways of thinking, working, and expressing, and that requires very intentional design. So yes, as you say, creative collaboration can be very messy, but when the conditions are right, it becomes transformative.
Yeah, wonderful. So, if you're an organisation, so perhaps thinking about a not-for-profit or any organisation that's wanting to head down this journey of more sort of collective intelligence, more collaboration, like how would you recommend? Like, what's the first step that they could take in order to start to build, that safety, that psychological safety, and ways of working? Like, how would they develop those first sort of 2 or 3 sort of steps?
The first thing is to define the process to create knowledge between each member. So if you don't know which are around the table, if you don't access to their background, to their way of thinking, to their reality, you are not able to understand who are the group. So the first step, and it can take different sessions, it can take different processes, is to create this value and to be able, through some rules and through some a frame, to create the condition to collaboration. And then it's to accept the authenticity of everyone. And it's when you feel in this way, you feel like, okay, I can think as I think, and I can be as I am. I can take part of the group for who I am, and I have a real expertise, I have a real skill that is recognized in the group, and my role will be, for example, to contribute on this expertise, or my role will be to contribute or to allow people to work together. It depends on what you are trying to do within the group. But so yes, it's interesting as a facilitator just to try to define the purpose and to work on what will emerge in a group. Sometimes you would like to lead a process, but what we can observe, if, for example, if there is a tension between two individuals in the group, you can't go ahead, you can't go on what you have decided before. So just come back and just, okay, it's what we call the meta position. So just, okay, make a stop and try to observe what happened in the group. We can't work because there is something else to do. We have something else to deal with if there is a tension or if there is a conflict or if there is someone around the table who are not able to contribute. So yeah, you have to be aware of the stage of development of the group. And for many not-for-profit organizations, it's important to work on this way also because they are under pressure, constant pressure, and operational, financial, and emotional, and it can push them into a survival mode where change can only happen as a response to external forces. So it's important for them, and most of the people, the worker in this kind of organization has to be very trained in this way. So to lead creative change, they need to make space for strategic creativity. So to test new ideas before the crisis, or to build innovation capacity in everyday practices, and accept that the failure is part of the learning. And it's very important, the place you can lead to the failure in the team.
Yeah, look, I love that, and I think a lot about what you spoke earlier in the conversation around those three pillars. So, and if I understood correctly, your first move would be perhaps with any new group, that you understand who's in the group, where they're from, and what they bring to the group as individuals. And then the second piece is why are we actually here? What's our purpose? What are we trying to achieve in this group? And then lastly is that action piece, like how are we actually going to go about this? So some of that structure, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you have always to imagine and to create as a long journey. It's not just 2 hours of meeting. It's before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting, and yes, step by step, where are we going, how we will go there, and how each one take part of this journey.
Yeah, no, I really like what you mentioned before that. If we're trying to move forward over here, but perhaps a couple of team members are. There's a tension going on, or we're not agreeing. We need to address that around, in order for us to move forward as a group. We just can't plough through that. We need to continually come back to, the relationship piece, and also the bigger purpose, so that we're not, I suppose, bogged down by or held back by some of the important, but I suppose more minor things that can occur. And what I'm speaking to there is, sometimes I've worked in teams where we get so focused on the granular pieces as opposed to that bigger picture. And I kind of always like the concept of, is this something that we could live with? So we might not agree around the best way, but is this something that we can move forward, that we can live with once we leave the room? So is that sort of the general sort of philosophy around sort of resolving some of that conflict?
Yeah, it's, as I said at the beginning, so collective intelligence is about cognitive, but it's about also relational. And you have to enable this creation of strong bonds within the team. So you can just say, okay, let's go to work together, and we have to go create a new idea. We have to, no, there is a lot of step before that. And you can just ask people to work together if there is other things happen between them. If they don't have, for example, the same relationship with the manager, we are just trying to to favorite to I don't know to try to no. Okay, this will be a stop.
It's okay.
No, what I would like to say is, the place of the manager is very important because it will be the first one to facilitate this good relationship. So he has to be a good manager for everyone and to access to what they need to do their job. So if there is some kind of frustration or if there is some kind of, okay, I'd like to do my job, but I have not the resources for doing that. And we can see in a lot of non-for-profit organizations could happen because there is less and less budget and income. So yes, a frustration and tension could exist among that.
Right. Look, and thank you very much for such a deep dive around collective intelligence and obviously your use around nominal group technique in terms of fostering ideas and creativity. So perhaps I'd just like to talk a little bit around design thinking, because I know that you have a qualification around design thinking and have background obviously within that. Can you share a little bit around what design thinking has done for you in terms of your career, your life, that sort of thing, and how has it changed you as a person? And if you can share a bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. I heard about design thinking like eight years ago, I guess, and for me it was just a revelation because I am an ideas generator. I have always ideas in every areas of my life. So I was so happy to find that, people can be skilled on this point, and it could be very important in an organization to know how step by step, phase by phase, understand what is it to create a new idea. But I like the different phases of design thinking because a lot of people create, but they forget to really understand why they have to create, for who, and what is the main purpose and what is the main issue you have to tackle. So for me, design thinking was just how to create the skills and how you create the condition to organize the skills during a process. And I like to link design thinking with collective intelligence because it becomes so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely, and see a lot of important crossover there. And so perhaps just as we finish up, if there's perhaps one piece of advice for somebody looking to work in this way around human-centered innovation, like what's their first step that you'd recommend them doing?
Everyone could be creative. So yeah, it's just it's not a luxury. It's just you have to be creative today, and everyone could access to this creativity. And I think we have to work and to allow, as I say, after the failure again, also because if the teams don't feel allowed to fail or to find the wrong way or maybe to decide, it was an error, but it's okay, we can learn about it. So it's so important for resilience and relevance to just have this movement, this agility, and this confidence and trust. So yeah, it's so important today.
Yeah, look, I totally agree that, with how quickly the world is changing, a lot of complex situations or problems that we're facing. We need these skills that develop, creativity, innovation, but also builds that resilience and the adaptability or agility that you sort of mentioned to respond, constructively to some of these challenges. So. Ian, look, thank you very much for joining us today. Before we sort of finish up, where can people best reach out to you?
I have an email address, so it's adurupt.ess@gmail.com. I guess you can forward them my email address if necessary.
Okay, and are they okay to reach out on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, sure. I have a profile and Durupt on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. And thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute insightful session. Really enjoyed hearing around collective intelligence and the crossover there with design thinking. And so appreciate you taking the time and sharing that today.
Thank you again. It was a pleasure for me to speak here in New Zealand about my work.
Thanks, Anne.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.